Okay, so welcome everybody to the Community Exploratory Working Group XF meeting number 2 for March 2025. Some logistics. So in Zoom, please rename yourself, your company, your name, and you can see that I've done that. It's as easy as right-clicking on the little dots on your image and uh, choosing rename. And that will help with the attendance tracking so that we can ensure that people are actually in good standing for votes and for uh, making sure that people are, here and we know how many people are ultimately available for quorum, which is important for making decisions. This meeting is being recorded. If you do not wish to be recorded, you must drop off. Some quick legal stuff. All forum meetings and online communications shall be conducted in compliance with all applicable laws, including antitrust and competition laws. Do not discuss the interpretation, validity, or importance of patents or patent claims. Do not discuss specific license rates, terms, or conditions. Do not discuss or engage in the fixing of product prices, allocation of customers, or division of markets. Do not discuss the status or substance of ongoing or threatened litigation. All interactions in these meetings should follow the XF Code of Conduct. There's a link here. Let me just share the slide deck so you guys can access the links. It's now in the chat. All interactions in these meetings should follow the XF Code of Conduct. Please keep all discussions professional, friendly, and civil. Unsolicited promotions, advertisements, or spam are not permitted. Don't be silent if you see any of the above being violated. Raise your concern to the meeting chair immediately or on email. And we have an email and an anonymous report there for anyone who needs to do that. Okay, for today's agenda, we're going to be reviewing the minutes from the last meeting, and we didn't actually record those, so that's not going to
Well,
happen this time.
I think that was the first one was kind of an open Twitter space.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we're going to carry on the conversation from the last meeting, which was on Twitter, and we're going to then try to, you know, work on basically marketing and what the ideas are, and then we'll look at the next meeting. I do have we didn't take attendance, so we can't approve the meetings because we can't approve who was there for those meetings. But there is a link here to the actual meeting minutes. I'll just show you what this looks like. Um, and I did get an AI summary of the entire Twitter space, so I think it'd be worth covering this real quick because essentially this is what we were talking about last time, and we need a jumping off point, especially since we don't have high attendance today. So the key topics covered, we talked about documentation updates, and that was mainly just a review of the other working group. We talked about authentic marketing and a focus on communication. We talked about community-driven marketing, creative strategies, understanding target audiences, the challenges of marketing and education and versus outreach, and looking forward what the foundation's role will be, preparing for growth and next steps. And the next meeting will be, oh, that's today's meeting, but that's the meeting notes for the last meeting. So normally, if we had an attendance, we could approve those meetings from last time. And you might want to take a look at that for this next section here. So we are looking for co-chairs. Right now, as board members, we're hosting this, but we need co-chairs to be running the working groups, and anyone can nominate themselves. If you want to nominate someone else, you can. We have a cohort process policy here, and that's pretty short. It shouldn't take too much to read through. It does explain the role of a co-chair and how they get nominated and voted in. You can sign up for the XF Foundation co-chairs email group, and that will allow you to nominate yourself or someone else and then vote for others in the nomination and voting process. So agenda item number one is to carry on our conversation from the last meeting. What should our focus be, and what direction should we take, and what works and what doesn't? So if anyone wants to start off, that'd be great. I have some ideas, but let someone else take the floor for a moment.
Yeah, I was going to suggest maybe throwing that link into the chat there of the to the AI notes.
Yeah,
Uh,
sure.
I know I could click on the thing there, but um, yeah, I think we just kind of for this sort of first official meeting as such, we're probably best off um, just trying to go back on some of the stuff that was talked about inside of that Twitter space and decide what was kind of worthy or point worthy, what maybe not so much. Yeah, because I think it was actually quite a useful space to hold. You know, general community people were in there trying to express themselves. You know, when it comes to marketing. So I think as a sort of overarching piece of work as such, you know, we need to figure out what kind of marketing retail side of Chia wants. I think during the Twitter space, we kind of talked about how you know, CNI obviously are a business, they're a profit-making business, and they're going to market to, you know, their needs. And I think there is a separate need for the general Chia community slash kind of retail side of the Chia blockchain that also needs that. And I think that could be one of the prime things that the XCH Foundation sort of leans into or leans towards. That's kind of my initial thoughts on the overarching topic as a whole. What's your
Yeah,
thought?
I would agree. I wasn't able to actually get my mic working at the space, so I wasn't able to say anything, but I did drop a bunch of notes in, and Tim read them out loud, which was helpful. Nice having an English voice on everything. Um, I had some basic, really kind of top level and things I wanted to cover, which were, the basics of marketing are identifying your audience, identifying your message, and then coming up with campaigns. And the idea there is really that I think what we identified in the last meeting was that this is an effort for the retail space, so the crypto community in general, but that there was a sort of a strong opinion on both sides of, should we be talking about bringing in community, or should this be about bringing in people based on the technical benefits of Chia? And I think a lot of that was valid from both sides. It would be great to identify those messages more clearly and then come up with a strategy for that. And the other thing was really, how do we use the community that we do have to generate more buzz and attention in those areas? So it really seemed like it needs to be a multi-pronged approach. Maybe we need to have individual groups working on marketing from different angles, so that we do have uh, we're making more noise in the space. I think we're seriously lacking in some areas we're not showing up at trade shows. We're not in the public eye when it comes to multi-chain options. If you're a developer, for example, Chia does not pop up in the list of options for your multi-chain deployment. And that's an opportunity, I think, for the community to build tools that leverage those multi-chain solutions out there. Everything from finance to integration with applications and building it into multiple wallets that exist. So yeah, I think there's a lot that could be done that CNI can't do right now. And definitely, I think making noise in the social sphere makes sense, but it's much larger than that. I think the other idea was integrating a marketing guru or two, or some influencers perhaps, that could take the ball and run. And essentially, I think it's sort of start from zero at this point in terms of a marketing push from somebody. So we could go to an influencer or a marketing group and say, build this up from nothing and make the world, you know, wise to how Chia works and what makes it fun and useful. So some thoughts from me.
Yeah, I echo a lot of that. So I think kind of the priority would be to uh, narrow down the focus points. Um, I think there's the areas you kind of touched on, the technical side. Um, I don't think it's necessary at this stage to kind of go into the details of how, but I think we need to focus on what just now would be my strategy anyway. I think I'd go for what is important, what is kind of the areas we want to go in, rather than going towards that kind of how. I think the what is important right now. So maybe a list of kind of what I did see Scott jumped in. Scott's probably a good person to kind of talk on marketing as well. I'm sure he's probably been involved in that in some shape or form. I don't know if you can hear us, Scott, or you're in the house.
He
He
just
may
dropped in and came back, so maybe
he might
he's available.
he
He
might
might be on
be
a plane.
yeah, might be on a plane. But yeah, I think for now let's kind of narrow down the what's. What kind of marketing do we want to target? Where do we want to target is the kind of the first areas. And then I think once we've got a plan of kind of what we want to do, we can then figure out a plan of how to do that. Whether it is bringing in someone with some expertise, or whether we think there are people within the community that have got the time and the energy to do that. Um, yeah. So what are the what's? I think to start with. I think you kind of touched on some of that, Greg, with what you were saying, and in that certainly in that message you sent me, which I read out.
Yeah, I'm gonna dig that up because it was poignant. Give me a sec.
Scroll.
Yep.
So when I look at the document, I see, basically, do we want to tell the world how great of a technology Chia is? Because we know, right? But other people may also want to know. Um, I think, that is a very important message to bring across. I think it would be great, right, if more people knew about that. But at the same time, we're also a very fun group of people, besides all the serious stuff that everybody's dedicating their time on building. I think it's also nice to have some memes, and I know we already have quite a bit of meme going on. But yeah, is there anything else besides memes and technical stuff that the what?
Yeah, yeah, I agree. You know, I'm probably the wrong age category to jump into the meme world too much, but we have a whole Tangang full of people that love all that. So we need to certainly lean on them for that. But then does the XCH Foundation go down that path? Do we want to go down the kind of meme route, or do we want to be a bit more serious? Serious kind of talk about the technical side. You can add some fun into it, but you don't have to go overboard.
Yeah, I agree. When we get to the how, which I think is uh, in essence what the Tang Gang is good at, I'm hoping that they will join us and kind of, take the role there as the noisy meme group that everyone's paying attention to. 'Cause they're really good at that.
But they're also very technical, right? Those guys. I
Yeah.
think they have a lot of great understanding of crypto as well. So, they can maybe fit that role of, translating all those technical advances to us, to a fun message and bring it across. Yeah, I think they would be very well suited for that.
So
Very
I,
impressed.
yeah, I agree. They know their stuff, and I think that's why people are paying attention. And they hold a lot of public spaces, which is super useful for, people who are getting into it for the first time. I dropped in some bullet points here from my notes from the meeting and on the 13th of March, and uh, basically identifying the goals, the message, who we want to attract, and why are they showing up. And I left out some of the stuff, my notes on types of marketing, because that is kind of the how part. Um, the other thing is there, it would be nice, and this may be even a crossover with the documentation working group. It would be nice to have a spreadsheet of how Chia compares with other chains, because then we could, in the, when answering technical stuff, pull from a list there. And I think it would really help the marketing groups to identify what we're basically up against, what people know about other chains, what the other chains are capable of. I do a lot of cross-chain research myself, and it's important, I think, to focus on the things that we can really improve on in that experience. There are so many things like that. And maybe we can have a publicly accessible document for that, a spreadsheet of the basically why Chia.
The
Yeah,
cheat sheet.
I think that kind of leans on um, the some of the stuff from that um the Twitter space, leveraging Chia's technology strengths, um and doing it in such a way that it's kind of not disputed as such. That's the difficult narrative, because I think when you're trying to talk to retail, everyone's kind of in their bubble, aren't they? You've got to kind of find these people that are willing to look outside the bubble. So maybe that is the case to kind of focus on that, and then figure out the ways to do that, leaning on that technical, I guess, technical narrative as such, isn't it? Um, but we're kind of stuck at that point. Chia's strength is the technical side. We're all here because we think it's probably a better technology than what exists. But what else is going for Chia? What is there? There's is there the what is there, marketing towards the cat token kind of ecosystem, the NFT kind of ecosystem, the developing kind of ecosystem. When we're talking about marketing as such, do we kind of break it down into those sections
Yeah,
for?
and I see the spreadsheet as a formal way to do competitive analysis, which I think is super important for effective marketing. You really need to know what other people know and what they think about the chain, and also really what they don't know about the chain, and what, so we can craft a narrative that brings people in.
So what would an example of that be? If you was to say, comparison to, I don't know, there's multiple different things in it. Block speed, it probably wouldn't be a great one to go for, but there's reasons why, isn't there? Security would be a good one. Why is it secure compared to blah blah blah? But you've got to try and hit on, if we're marketing to retail, they don't care about security or decentralization, essentially, do they?
Mm.
That's the difficult part.
Right. And that might be the why are they showing up, right? For in the consumer space, I do think there is some good reason to bring the enterprise voice into the discussion, because really those are the ones with the large amounts of money, and they can attract, enterprise clientele into the space. So I think we don't want to just focus completely on the consumer side, but for the consumer side, I really think it's probably things like how much money are you going to save on transactions, things like that. And offer files, of course, I think is kind of at the top of the list of exceptional uh, primitives that are useful.
Yeah. I just want to maybe a little bit of a sort of zoom out question, because you said compared to other cryptos, and then we focus on the who, the current sum of all different crypto spaces, I guess. But if we take the domain of all people, then real people like normal people, that not everybody's into crypto, right? So I think we all know talking about blockchain and crypto doesn't always do super well at parties. But when I talk to my central banker friends of how Chia blockchain actually has something to offer compared to their ancient technology, then all of a sudden their ears are pointed. So I think it's also nice if we make similar spreadsheets, not only for compared against other cryptocurrencies, but maybe the industries that we try to serve, or the problems that our blockchain can solve. Because there's a whole domain of people out there, a whole group of people out there that may be interested in the solutions of blockchain, but actually have strayed away from the crypto space because it is, it hasn't really brought any solution to their problem. So, maybe that's another who to focus on, maybe an interesting who to focus on, given the, the technological prowess of the blockchain.
So
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
are we kind of going down the road of, we're marketing to retail, to enterprise, and to, well, I guess the normies would be a good one to add to that as well, wouldn't it? Just your average person.
Yeah, I think so.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes,
Yep.
got it, Scott.
Awesome. How you guys doing?
Great. Good to have you.
Yeah, same. Happy to be here. Couple of thoughts. I've been listening in the last few minutes. I certainly think there's an opportunity to, in thinking about what is the narrative that Chia fits into. And I think solving real problems for real companies and real people in the real world, like I think there's an angle there. And I mean, many of us are here because of the technology. We see its potential. We see its applicability and what we believe it's going to enable. And I think we're very close to seeing that start to play out with things like Permuto. But fundamentally, I mean, when thinking about marketing, it's like, what is the why that people have to be here or to interact or participate in any way, shape, or form? I think some of us are here because we see the promise of the technology. We see the soundness of it and the brilliance of the architecture on so many layers, on why it's secure, why it's composable, why it has all of the building blocks to do real things in the world. And there's obviously ground to cover from where we are today, and realizing that's why we're all here. But I think when I think about who is the target of marketing in the immediate term, I would say not only developers, but also founders and, people building products that incorporate technology. And I think really conveying, it's like, why is Chia different? What is differentiated about it? When you think about the retail side of things, I mean, the reality is like, why would anyone that we categorize as retail participate in something? I mean, the raw reality in crypto is that people participate at the prospect of making money. And, and for people to participate in an ecosystem, I mean, that happens in a lot of ways in crypto. A lot of it is speculative. You know, the signal to noise ratio is exceedingly low, right? It's like, you know, crypto is a beast that feeds itself. And, you know, a lot of it's zero sum. You know, I think like meme coins and are the perfect example where it's like, you know, there's a gambling angle to it. That's fine, you know, if that's something that you want to participate in. But I think one of the things that certainly for me, and I know many others in the Chia ecosystem are excited about, is just like we see the fundamental value, the substantive, the non-zero sum value of, you know, real value being built and accrued in an ecosystem, you know, that makes new things possible, that creates value for businesses, for enterprises, for, you know, people to have better tools and products and experiences. And so, you know, so all of that to say, you know, I think really conveying it's like why Chia, thinking about the why, like why is this a better tool and a better technology that's going to enable better products. And so on the more retail consumer side, you know, people starting to see this and, you know, see these data points and understanding, okay, why does the level of decentralization matter? Why does the Nakamoto prohibition matter? And why does that matter to the enterprises and people that have the potential to use that at scale? When we paint a picture for why the technology translates to something in the real world, you know, and when people on a more consumer and retail level see that and understand that, you know, that gives them a reason to excite it and say, oh, like maybe I'll download a Wallet, maybe I'll download Sage and see what this is all about and experience. Oh, let me, you know, buy some NFTs with an offer file and get that experience. And you just see the seamlessness of it. Or, oh, hey, I could drop $150 and buy a Sol's Lot DAC. And all of a sudden I have, you know, like an interesting little piece of real estate exposure and an offer file makes it seamless. And then like once people experience that, you know, it's like give them a reason to even like have a touch point with the ecosystem in a really like accessible way. And then I think that's what will get people like open their eyes and be like, oh, wait, like the magical experience of an offer file when you've had other experiences in crypto, which are not that experience. Like I think that firsthand experience, you start to see it and understand it, and then you see the potential. But then the flip side, we ultimately need people building things that utilize it to realize the fundamental value in it. And so, so yeah, I'll stop talking for now. Those are some of my initial thoughts based on the conversation so far.
Yeah, that's great stuff. I think we have Yak online, and I'm wondering if he wants to throw out some unique points about the narrative on Chia. I know we're going to be seeing vaults soon, and there are vaults, of course, multi-signature solutions on other chains. But I'm wondering if there are other things as well that we can, uh, you know, align ourselves with. So when the technology is ready, we have a strong message for that as well.
I'll just jump in and say on that, sorry, just real quick, the vault, I think that is going to be one of the key, we have an opportunity with that. Like it's going to be such a magical experience of custody for crypto that people have never had a chance to experience before. And so we, you know, as those launch and come online in mainnet, we have a real opportunity to think about what are some things we could do that just make it really easy to show that magic and have that aha moment. Like I'm very excited to be able to just go to somebody and be like, hey, you know, download the Signer app, and then you know, a couple clicks, and all of a sudden you have a wallet set up. And then if I'm standing next to you with my iPhone, it's like, all right, well, you'll do this with your own iPhone, but here, like you can set me up with the backup recovery key. Pretend this is an iPhone, a cheap iPhone you bought through in a safe somewhere. That's it. It's secure, no seed phrase, whatever. Like there's definitely some opportunities with that to create that magical experience for people that we should be thinking about too.
Yeah, and that was one of the things I was hoping Yak would throw in here was um and Rigidity isn't here, but I think he might be a good one to talk about the mobile experience. And And Clyde's here too. If anyone wants to chime in about how seamless the mobile experience can be, I think one of the big things that's missing in the space in general is an opaque experience where you don't have to mess with the, uh, key for your wallet and another application every time you want to sign in for something, and how the BLS signatures on Chia are actually well aligned for a seamless experience.
I think a lot of older community members understood the merits of vaults from a technical standpoint, but going back to what Scott said, it's really a magical experience to have it on your phone and sign transactions, be able to preview them, know that the keys are secure in the device's enclave. Another thing I think is underappreciated is that compared to other blockchains, you don't get charged for transactions that fail. So when your transactions become invalid in, say, Ethereum, they have a maximum amount of gas, and they can fail because they run out of gas, or the contract can revert execution, and then you get charged fees even though what you wanted to do didn't completely go through. But with Chia, if your spend bundle becomes invalid because something happened on chain, for example, it just gets kicked out of the mempool. Your coins are still there and you don't get charged fees for things that fail.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Didn't even know that.
And also clawbacks, I think that's another thing that's a pain point.
Yeah, as soon as we have V2 clawbacks, when you can just have a 5-minute clawback period, making test transactions a thing of a past, that'll certainly be another one. Also, to build on the meme side of things, the Tangang piece of the conversation, maybe there's something. So I'm imagining, once I have the ability to stand next to you and be like, just download the app, set up a vault, click, done. That in and of itself is going to be a really incredible experience. But then what do people do once they have a vault set up with a wallet? And so we should think about what's something that is just fun, that makes it fun for people to go to their friends and create like a viral loop of like, it's like, holy shit, you won't believe this. Like, this vault thing on Chia is incredible. Like, I've never seen anything like it. And make it easy to go viral. Like that, maybe that's a project for us to start thinking about, where absent something of like monetary value, maybe there's something with like an NFT or meme kind of concept that we could utilize for something like that when vaults.
Yeah. Yeah, when vault. Anyone? Rigidity, where are you?
Soon. You can actually test vaults on testnet right now with the testnet implementation of Cloud Wallet. And in regards to the mobile experience, that includes being able to, load up the Cloud Wallet on a mobile device, utilize the Chia signer directly on your mobile device, and have a full mobile experience.
And is the Chia signer is a separate app still?
Correct. Yeah, the Chia signer will be a separate app. Absolutely.
When Android Chia signer?
Soon.
Am I going to be forced to buy an iPhone?
It depends on your time sensitive nature.
All right.
Works also with
the other thing though is that Cloud Wallet works with more than just the Chia signer. So the initial implementation will rely on the Chia signer, but the underlying vault primitive does support passkeys, hardware keys, a whole bunch of other styles of key sets as well. So it's a really powerful primitive that's being released here.
Yeah, so the mobile experience is up and coming. I know some of what's going on with the Sage wallet, which has quickly become my favorite Chia wallet. And because it's written in Rust, it can be compiled to a binary file, which means it can be installed on devices, and ideally turned into a seamless experience where you're not jumping between apps, which I think is a huge win. But I'm wondering, what else the CNI group's working on towards that. And also, we haven't started up our working group for the development group that we're planning on building out, but there might be some opportunities there to extend beyond what CNI is doing, and what we're working on here in marketing could really carry over there.
Yeah, on
Yeah.
the CNI side, there are the initial thing that you'll see is definitely going to be the Chia signer to help out on the mobile aspect, and that's just going to be a much more secure way to store keys on a mobile device. And then we have some other plans farther down the road. I'm not able to speak fully to those yet, though. But yeah. So definitely some things on the mobile side you'll find kind of like with gaming, the gaming primitive that's being released. You're going to find that generally what CNI does in these types of primitives and implementations is we're going to build out the primitive, we're going to build out the proof of concept, show people how to utilize that primitive, and we're going to build out a use case for that primitive as well. And so kind of what you're seeing for that regard is we're going to have Permuto that's going to be utilizing Cloud Wallet and Chia Signer, and it's going to be a cool system there. Now it's not going to be the same Cloud Wallet that you're seeing, and I know Gene's mentioned that a couple of spaces as well. It's there's going to be a cool implementation specifically for Permuto, and on the community side, it's how people are going to use things, and that's really where the community can take off and flourish. And you don't have to worry as much now. Yak is obviously the exception in this regard, just because he loves getting his hands dirty and getting into the nitty gritty. And then of course the NFT fusion puzzle from Grig and Tim also does the same thing here. But for the community, there's a lot less need to work on more primitives and kind of the more robust tech that has that really long lifespan where if you mess up at its initial implementation, you might mess something up 10 years down the road and not even realize it. And what that means is the community really gets to focus on the fun stuff, the creative aspects. How are people going to engage with it? What does it mean to the actual user who is engaging with it? How can you make it more fun? How can, maybe to Scott's point previously, what different types of revenue models can be brought in for the end user and utilizing all these primitives? And so I think that's really where the XCH Foundation can start to shine is, as you guys are talking, you have some cool wallets, you have Sage coming out on mobile, you have a number of others like Pocket and Ozone, and a number of mobile experiences in that regard. And then you'll have Chia Signer to store your key set, and then something like the Cloud Wallet is a different option for a wallet. But then you got to look at what are we going to do now that we have the ability to perform secure transactions, and these transactions are auditable on the blockchain. And I think that's where the XCH Foundation can really start to shine is, hey, look, here's some ways that we can bring community creatives together. Here are some ways that we can bring together the developers from the community to work on projects and build out, maybe it's for gaming and it's the multiplayer platform for gaming. We've mentioned in the past that matchmaking is not really going to be a big focus of CNI. We'll create a way for you to connect with somebody. And outside of that, though, building a giant matchmaking server and making sure people have seamless connections or building bots so that people can play by themselves and do single player games. There's a lot open for how people engage with these primitives that really needs development on. And CNI really tries to focus more on the, hey, let's build the stuff so that people can use it. And then you guys can take that and say, hey, how do we want people to use it? And let's build all those tools.
Yeah, and as somebody who's biased to the metaverse, which is, not a huge topic these days, but is still something that's being worked on. I know that the metaverse really needs a good set of Web3 primitives. It can't really function without them. Essentially, without the Web3 layer, they can't. It's just a game. It's not an interoperable experience. So, and Chia is really moving towards that as well. There's a lot of things that the metaverse needs that the Chia primitive set is going to be able to provide.
Well said. Well said. I think what was I going to say? Oh yeah, just talking about the various work groups. I think there's going to be like an overlap between probably most of the groups at some point. So yeah, I'm not sure how we tackle that. That's probably not quite the topic we want to talk about right now. But when we're talking about marketing towards developers, I think obviously that working group, the development working group, is going to be key to that. So you know, there's definitely this overlap that we need to try and be aware of when we're working in these groups.
Yeah, we'll definitely start conducting working group chair meetings where the chairs from each working group can meet to discuss what they're doing. Occasionally, we'll do an oversight meeting, which is a deep dive into each working group where anyone can attend and kind of get an update from the chairs on what's actually happened in the last year. You know, I think there's a lot we can do with some structure in terms of working together.
Good, great.
Yeah, so where else do we want to go with this topic of conversation? We've probably got about 15 minutes left, haven't we? So I think we've actually covered quite a lot today. That's pretty impressive. You know, maybe we could narrow it down to where the focus should be. I can see XY has just jumped in. He might not be able to talk, but he had some really good points in the space the other day when it comes to kind of what we were talking about today, the general, you know, leaning on the things that Chia does better, or Chia does things that no other blockchain can, type thing. Yeah.
One other thought I have is there's a lot of narrative around, you know, here's why Chia is better for institutions and governments. And it's like the largest organizations with the most at stake who can't afford to have a break in security or, you know, have an exploit or a bug or whatever. Thinking about scenarios where it's like, you know, maybe there's an opportunity to paint a picture for people of like, okay, here's why, you know, XYZ alternatives have problems that Chia fixes. You know, here's why, you know, insufficient decentralization is a problem. Here's why the, you know, ease of introducing errors and solidity is a problem. Here's why, you know, Chia Lisp is better. Here's why proof of space and time is better. Higher Nakamoto coefficient's better. In the context of like, what is that catastrophic scenario if you have $1 billion of assets on this, or whatever the case may be? So, you know, it's like really paint a picture for people of, even if it's unlikely, like those fundamental reasons that motivated the way Chia was architected from the learnings of other blockchains that came before. You know, that's going to be a part of our opportunity, I think, as well.
Yeah, that definitely leans towards the why side of it, and I completely agree. It's like you know, what a good kind of why would be if, you know, if X, Y, and Z can store, you know, X amount of $1 billion on your chain, on this chain, you know, you can secure your crypto as well, type thing. You know, there's a slogan to be made from that, I'm sure.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yeah. Hi.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah, first of all, I hope you guys are doing fine. I'm right now in the car, and I was really late joining the meeting, so I'm sorry for that. Please, may I ask you, the purpose of the meeting, I think, is to, I mean, maybe even work like working packages, something like that. So may I propose that we may start from a kind of a campaign perspective, that we may, as a foundation, that we clarify, okay, during this kind of quarter, for example, what are we targeting during marketing postings? And then that we leverage all the postings within the communities. Like, for example, we have like a quarter where we target like new developers and then we try to structure somehow our postings to make Chia like a good platform for new developers, right? And then we reach out also to the community developers and to ask them, okay, so why have you chosen Chia? Why is Chia like the infrastructure you like to build? You like to build on, and that we maybe from that perspective start with kind of top-down approach, starting with the campaign, and then working our way through like the final postings in marketing, these kind of things. What do you think?
Yeah, I think early on in our conversation before you jumped in, and no problem that you weren't here at the beginning, but just to fill you in, we kind of ran through the top level concepts in marketing. And at some point early on, we decided to focus on the what and not the how during this conversation. But certainly the how is equally important. And we have some ideas that I think we're going to have to carry on into the next meeting. And I think it's great that we've focused on the what here, but it may have been, I'm taking notes. All the meeting minutes will be recorded, and we'll make sure that all the ideas are captured. So if somebody does want to bring up some more of the hows, we could dive into that with our remaining 10 minutes.
I love it. Yeah. So you have started like from a strategy point of view, like how we should approach it, right? So did I understood correctly?
Yeah, pretty much. I think
Yeah.
it's just been an informal discussion that started on a Twitter space last week. And now we're kind of formalizing that process and just taking a more bird's eye view first and drilling down into making it happen.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah, I will definitely watch the recording then. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'd love any input you have. I think it's all very important right now.
Yeah, definitely. I think XY was very good actually in the space. He made some really valid points there. So that's worth a listen back as well. But I think for the here and now, we're kind of getting somewhere where we're talking about, the kind of what. It's difficult to start talking about the what and then not the kind of how we deliver it, because I think the how the deliver it part is the fun part. That's the part where we can get experimental and throw ideas around, wild ideas, and I think a lot of that is needing more and more people to be involved with that and getting more opinions on the kind of how side of it. But yeah, I think we've done okay today. We've definitely made a dent in things. Yeah, I'd throw it out again. Is there any more kind of high level stuff that we want to talk about right now when it comes to maybe which kind of areas that the XCH Foundation should be maybe concentrating on? If there's a working group of, say, 5, 6, 10 people, do we concentrate on what's the priority for the community as such? Are CNI doing enough to entice and look at entice enterprise? Is that somewhere we don't really need to be going? Do we need to be marketing towards or do we even need to be mentioning governments and institutions? I think that's kind of what we've been saying. Like, in a general community standpoint, we've been talking about the Bhutan government uses this, Singapore government uses this, the Carbon Action Data Trust uses this. But at the end of the day, do the people that kind of the community want to be marketed to, do they care about any of that? I don't know. I think they do to a certain extent, but I don't know if it's their main thing, or the main thing they're looking on.
Well, I think one thing that kind of fits into the category of what we're discussing is the goals, or our measurable metrics of success. And that would really help as well. I think, that will probably be a moving target, but I imagine it would be nice to figure out what sort of things are going to move the needle and what that would look like. You know, is it an increase in uh, the 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 amount of blocks that are filled, or you know, fee pressure, or is it the cost of XCH, or the number of people talking about it on when they're talking about cross chain? You know, how do we determine success? I think that would be worth diving into as well and really help focus the group, and then we'll be able to measure what we've done and see some change over time.
Agreed. Yeah, I think the key metrics are a really important thing. You, you know, there's definitely tools out there to kind of measure that type of marketing sort of you know, success, I guess you'd call it. I don't think, I mean, is anyone here particularly a marketeer as such? You know, I don't think, you know, I think we all have a little go at it, but I don't think we're any of us are professional marketeers. You know, that's another high level thing really is, are we capable of doing this? And you know, are people within the community capable of doing this? You know, are there people in our community that maybe do have a good understanding of marketing, you know, proper marketing, rather than just us kind of throwing ideas around? Maybe there needs to be a shout out to marketing people within the Chia community to kind of get into these meetings and do a bit more. I don't know, unless anyone is a marketeer, please put your hand
I
up.
started my career there way back in the late 90s. Don't want to date myself too much, but yeah. And that was mostly working on campaigns for large corporate type accounts. But things have changed a lot, and I think there's probably a good group of people who are experienced with marketing, and if not there, we can find others through our network, you know, who may be interested in tackling the job. But I do think the goals and the metrics of success are something that the people who are part of the community can probably determine. You know, we're the ones that have been looking at the numbers and wondering how to change them.
So I would say from business side of things, having the goal and the metrics should be enough to set up for action. So, I mean, you know, there's a point where we can like discuss the theory like really a lot without any results. So at some point, I think when the direction is somehow discussed and clear, then it's time for action. And I think what you have said with the goal, actually, I mean, do you want to reach enterprises? It's likely that enterprises are onboarding to Chia and CNI because of our postings in X, or is it retail? So when the goal is defined and how we would like to measure it, then just let's go for it, right? So we don't waste too much hours in discussing and without any action. We need to put in here the effort, the actions with a goal, and then we get results.
Completely agreed. I think we're in our first 57 minutes of discussing this at all. So I don't think we've over talked about the basics. And I think we're all action oriented. The board definitely got together to make something happen, and that's definitely the next step. And maybe with the last 3 minutes here, we'll just review the plan for our next meeting. And I slated it for 2 weeks from now, but if we need to do it every week, that's fine. I didn't want to overcommit to people's schedules, but I do think on the schedule for next week is really the how, right?
Yeah, I think just being in the document group yesterday, I think it's quite important for us to meet as regular as possible, certainly at this stage. Touching on what XY just said there, you know, if we start meeting every 2 weeks at this stage, you know, it'll take us 6 months to get anywhere. So I'm happy to do a kind of a weekly schedule, if everyone else is. But you know, I guess it's Greg. You're kind of the man with the button pressing.
Well, I can't be forever, that's for sure. It takes me actually 2 hours per meeting. After the meeting, I have to do a lot of file management to finish the minutes. So yeah.
Yeah. Well,
But
we'll
for
talk
now,
about that.
until we have our co-chairs and they've been voted in, that's something I'm happy to do. So next week will be the 27th of March. And we'll do it at the same time. We may want to put in an APAC timeframe. I know there are people who said they couldn't make it because they're asleep right now. And once we've got some additional support for this group, we can, you know, have 2 meetings a day. And that, I think, it'll be super useful to hear from, you know, the Asia Pacific group.
Yeah, I was going to suggest that as well, that or maybe even next week's or we alternate, so that you know, it's not so friendly but still doable for Europe, and you know, hopefully capture, you know, sort of 9-10 p.m. for Europe isn't the end of the world, and it might capture some more areas of the planet. I don't know.
The idea behind doing it twice in one day is that you can keep the agenda the same and move forward quickly. Otherwise, the staggering can kind of slow things down. I guess if we're doing it weekly, though, it's not as big of an issue. But yeah, I agree. We do need to make sure everyone's included. All right. So thanks everyone for joining us. That was a wonderful discussion. I think we got a lot done. We'll move on to the how part, and I'm hoping we can bring in more of the community. So anyone here who wants to make some noise on the socials or talk in person with people, please reach out and bring in more people for our discussion next week. I think people will be much happier to talk about the how than the what, but at least we'll have the basics mapped out and something to start with. So appreciate your time, and we'll call it a meeting. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks guys.
Take care, guys. Yes, cheers. Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you all. Have a great day.